the African queen who defied an empire. What if I told you one of Rome's fiercest enemies wasn't a king? Not a general, but a one-eyed African queen who forced the Roman Empire to negotiate peace. Not surrender, not defeat. Peace. Her name was Queen Amon Uranus, and her story is one history almost forgot. Stay with me, because what she did to Rome was something no one expected. At the height of its power, Rome was unstoppable from Europe to the Middle East. Its legions marched with precision and power. Kingdoms collapsed before them. Resistance was crushed without hesitation. When Rome took Egypt, it wasn't just a victory. It was a statement, and then they looked south. To a land rich in gold, iron, and culture, a land they believed would fall just like the others, Kush. But Kush was not just another kingdom. It was ancient, strategic, proud. And it had something Rome underestimated, a queen who refused to bow. Queen Amon Uranus was not a figurehead. She was a conductor, a ruling queen with full authority, a leader who commanded armies, made decisions, and stood at the front lines of her people's future. She had already lost one eye in battle. Let that sink in. She knew war. She understood sacrifice, and she had no illusions about Rome. So when news came that Rome was tightening its grip near Kush's borders, she didn't panic, she prepared. Imagine the tension: Roman governors demanding control, trade routes under threat, the shadow of an empire creeping closer. Most rulers would wait, most rulers would negotiate. But a minor Anus chose something bold, something dangerous. She struck first. Kushite forces moved north into Roman-controlled Egypt. Not as refugees, not as defenders, but as invaders. They attacked swiftly, burning forts, disrupting Roman supply lines, capturing key cities, and then something symbolic happened. They seized a statue of Caesar, the emperor of Rome, reduced to a trophy. This wasn't just war anymore. This was a message: Rome could not tolerate such humiliation. So they responded with force. They sent Gaius Petronius, a battle-hardened commander with one objective, and Kush Roman legions marched south, organized, disciplined, relentless. They had better armor, better formations, more resources. Everything pointed to a Roman victory. But war is not always decided on paper. The first clashes were intense. The Romans advanced with their famous formation, shields locked, lines unbroken. But Kushite warriors fought differently. They were fast, agile, unpredictable. They knew the land, they knew the heat. They knew how to strike and disappear. And at the center of it all was a Monteranus. Not hidden behind palace walls, but present, leading, inspiring, refusing to retreat. The battle stretched on. City after city became a battlefield. Dust filled the air, the sound of metal echoed across the desert. Roman soldiers expected fear. Instead, they met resistance. Relentless resistance. Then came the turning point. Among Uranus changed tactics. She avoided direct, prolonged clashes. Instead, she used the terrain to her advantage: ambushes, surprise attacks, quick strikes on weak points. Then retreat before Rome could respond. Over and over again, Rome was being worn down. Not defeated in one battle, but drained slowly, strategically, psychologically. And something unusual began to happen. The Roman advance slowed, their confidence shaken, their expectations broken. Because Kush was not behaving like a conquered people. They were fighting like a nation that had already decided freedom was non-negotiable. Years passed, not days. Not weeks, years. And Rome, the empire that crushed nations, found itself in a position it rarely faced: a war that wasn't worth continuing. So they did the unthinkable. They sought peace. Think about that. Rome negotiating, not dictating. Not conquering, but agreeing. The terms of the treaty were shocking. Kush would remain independent. No heavy tribute, no Roman occupation. In fact, the terms favored Kush. And then came the final statement. That statue of Caesar, Queen of Monteranus, ordered it buried beneath the temple entrance, so that every person who walked in would step on Rome. Every single day. It was more than symbolism. It was a declaration: Kush bows to no empire. What makes this story powerful isn't just the war. It's what it represents: a woman in a time dominated by empires, standing against the strongest force in the world and refusing to be erased. Queen Amanirenas didn't just protect her land. She protected her people's identity, their dignity, their future. History often celebrates conquerors, but sometimes the greatest victories belong to those who simply refuse to be conquered. So the next time you hear about the power of Rome, remember this: there was a queen in Africa who made them stop. And it leaves one question: how many more stories like hers are still waiting to be told?